Hello everyone, this is the Sports Show podcast, and today we're joined with Mich Neilly. How are you, mate?
Chief, I'm very good. Thanks very much for having me on.
No worries, mate. Thank you. So, first of all, just before we get started, give us a wee bit of an introduction about yourself. What are you like?
Sure. Yeah. Well, a knob to start off, I suppose, if you watch enough of my content. But no, so pretty much, long story short, I'm a personal trainer, online coach. Have been doing that for about 2 or 3 years. And I suppose pretty much since the start of the pandemic, I've been putting out tons of different types of content from fitness tips, recipe ideas, pretty much anything that's trendy and hip and is going to get me a ton of views. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. And my next question would then be, what got you started in the coaching? Would that be because of lockdown? Do you think it helped you a wee bit, or were you interested in before lockdown?
So coaching was before lockdown. I suppose what got me into it was my background's in hospitality. So I went to university and did a hospitality degree. Then just decided that it wasn't what I wanted to do forever. So I went to Australia pretty much. Bumped into Gavin. I'm not sure if you've seen any of my content along with my mate Gavin. And yeah, we kind of decided that we didn't want to work in bars, restaurants, and shit like that. As you do, we wanted to do something that we enjoyed. So from there, when I get back from Australia, decided the first thing I was going to do was go do a course and become a personal trainer. So yeah, it was pretty much just inspired by the idea of I don't want to do something that I absolutely hate for the rest of forever. As cringy and as cliche and as privileged as that fucking sounds, that's pretty much where I came from.
Yeah. And see, whenever you obviously do this every day, what gives you the
Yep.
motivation to get up and create this whole content and everything?
I think it's a really good question. I think these days for me it's more of a habit and it's more of a necessity just because of what I do. But initially, I suppose it was about building a business, trying to get more clients, especially in lockdown, because you can imagine back in, what was it? How long ago was it now? It feels like ages ago, but 2 years ago. So say April 2020, you can imagine, I just started PTing and then all of a sudden everything's closed for 3 or 4 months. And you're kind of thinking to yourself, like this, back to the hotel it goes. So I suppose initially it was a necessity thing in terms of trying to generate business and pick up more clients. But these days, mate, it really is just a habit. It's a bit like not training, I suppose, or probably for you something to do with boxing. If you're not actually doing that 3 or 4 times a week, 5 times a week, it feels really strange. And the same's certainly true of creating content now, definitely.
Yeah. And within your own coaching sessions, if there's ones watching this who maybe want to get involved with you, what do your
Yeah.
coaching sessions online involve?
So coaching online, as I'm sure you're probably aware of, is very different to gym floor personal training. So gym floor, obviously, you're taking the session, you're coaching people through an entire session, and then there's very little support outside of that. Whereas with the online side of things, it's pretty much the whole opposite of that. So you're not actually like coaching a session, but what you're actually given is a ton of support on the rest of the areas that you would potentially miss out on if you were just seeing a PT. So that's the big difference. I suppose the cliche idea or the cliche way of kind of putting it is, when you're a gym floor coach, you're maybe only seeing your client 1 hour a week, whereas with online coaching, it's the rest of that time that you're not with your gym floor coach. So for me, very much there's no real way of coaching a session online. It's more about giving people support, getting them set up with nutritional guidance, making sure that they're not eating fucking chicken breast and broccoli all day, every day, and they're actually enjoying what they're doing from a nutritional standpoint. And I suppose another way of coaching them is they send you maybe videos and stuff like that, and you're troubleshooting form issues, making sure they're training hard enough. Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah. And of course, you says you're doing different content on TikTok. You think you've
Yep.
over 220,000 followers and 1.9 million likes or something, which is it's crazy. But the question is, how much work do you put into these videos with creating different recipes and everything?
More than you would think, mate. Probably too much these days. Like, it's a pretty common question that I get asked by like friends and family and stuff like that. Probably for a cooking one, maybe from actually putting the pan on and putting oil in the pan till finishing off the edit, it could be as much as 4 or 5 hours for one video, which for someone who's like, as I suppose, OCD with making things look good and stuff like that is probably too much. You could probably cut that down a fair bit. For the talking ones, they're not as bad because you're actually doing the voiceover and the video and stuff like that in the video. Whereas with the cooking one, you have to film it, you have to get the right angles, you have to make sure it looks good, you have to voice over it, you have to fucking edit it, you have to do all your really clever transitions. It takes ages, which is why probably I should get a fucking videographer at some stage to do it much better than me and outsource it. But that's another story.
Yeah. And of course you do all different cooking videos as we just
Yeah.
mentioned. What you surely have to have a favorite one.
Oh, that's another good question. Favorite one at the minute has to be either the satay chicken fakeaway, or I suppose an old favorite of people from where we're from is the honey chili chicken as well. They would be the two standout ones. I'm trying to think if there's any other. I suppose the slow cooked bolognese, slow cooked roast beef bolognese from the other day, which was quite cheap, was another cracker. So they would be probably the three that if people haven't actually tried them, I would certainly recommend.
Yeah. And next up, if you had to give advice to someone who's maybe trying to lose weight or get even healthier, what advice would you give?
Yeah, my big advice. So you'll know this as well, just from probably watching people. You just bump into people in the street and you're at, you notice that they've lost a little bit of weight and you're like, well, how are you getting on? They're like, oh, big man, I've lost fucking 3 stone in 6 weeks. My advice would be the opposite of that. Actually focus on trying to build the habits and build the routines so that you're able to do this 3, 4, 5 years from now. What you do in the next 12 weeks, if you're thinking about getting into fitness now and actually like starting your weight loss journey, what you actually do in the next 12 weeks is trivial. Because if you do it with too much intensity and you put too much effort into it and you kill yourself and you actually like take a lot out of yourself, you're only going to rebound from there. So what you realistically want to do is just put very small basic steps in place. Aim to be consistent with those really small, easy steps over the course of the next year, over the next 2 years, 3 years, whatever, as opposed to thinking, right, I've just started with this PT here. I'm going to consume 1,400 calories. I'm going to eat nothing but eggs and fish and rice cakes for breakfast and chicken breast and broccoli for lunch, because there's only one way that goes, and that's ultimately failure. You know what I mean? So that would be my advice. Take it easy, chill out, and go slow. Be the tortoise.
Yeah. And for you personally, what would you say would be maybe your next big step? What would your aims or objectives be?
I'm the worst. See me, I am the worst person to ask this question to, because I can't actually like think long term. I just wake up every single day and just think, right, what are we doing today? I'm really, really bad at thinking like what I want to do 2 years from now, what I want to do 5 years from now. But I suppose in the medium term, for me, would be to probably just refine my online coaching a wee bit more next year, early next year. So just make it a little bit better. And that's probably it. I think maybe bring out another different type of recipe book mid next year. But mate, we see if you watch what I'm at, it'll be the complete opposite of that. I'll probably be making like football and boxing videos or something stupid like that. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's hard for me to say.
Yeah, and next we'll just move on to a few questions that a few of the listeners have. So the first one is, how does nutrition help players become elite?
It's a good question. So players in what sense?
I would say from
sports
the
athletes
person who asked it would probably be playing Gaelic or hurling.
Okay. Well, I think without proper nutrition, without things like proper sleep as well, you're not going to be able to maximize your performance. And don't get me wrong, there is outliers when you look. Like the one thing I always remember, and I'm not sure if this is a lie or not, but I can remember Usain Bolt doing a video saying that before the 100-meter sprint in like 2012 or some shit like that, he was eating chicken nuggets, and you just have to laugh. So like some people can't get away with it, but you know, if you're not actually optimizing your nutrition, if you're not actually like, you know, focusing on doing things from a calorie standpoint to be the correct body weight. If you're not supplementing with things like, and I'm not saying like supplements or stuff like that, but if you're not actually hitting the correct protein targets, you're not going to be able to recover properly from your GAA sessions, from your conditioning sessions, from your weight training sessions, stuff like that. So I would say, don't get me wrong, you can get pretty close to decent performance and cardiovascular fitness without nutrition, but it's probably at that high level, it's probably going to be the it's a hard word for an Irishman to say, differentiator from being a good player and a great player.
Yep. And the next one is, what would you say would be the fastest way to lose or gain weight? Lose weight or else gain muscle?
Yeah, again, a very, very common question. And a tricky one to answer because it is always very contextual to the individual. So the quickest way is a bad way of looking at it. Like I said, you want to just try and focus on kind of more macro things like long term, so year, 2 years. But quickest way to lose fat, I suppose the quickest combined with the most sustainable, is to adjust your calories to a specific number. Make sure you're tracking your food and make sure you understand what's going in. Make sure that you're not there's this real narrative of nutrition that you have to be boring and bland. Make sure you're including things that you actually enjoy. I'm not saying eat KFC every single day, but equally, I'm not saying just eat chicken breast and rice, like I've said before this. Find a balance and a kind of a middle ground between those two things. So that's what I would say with respect to nutrition. Set your calories a specific way, but just find balance with specific foods. Training's quite easy. You just need to get in the gym. Get in the gym maybe 3 to 5 times a week. Pick pretty full body movements. So make sure you're training a whole scope of muscle groups. So things like squats, bench press, even deadlifts, pretty much anything. And then obviously a few isolations things as well. Simply put, just make sure you're getting fucking stronger at those movements over time. As long as you can guarantee that you're one, lifting with really, really good form, and 2, obviously improving. So, adding reps, adding weight, stuff like that, you are going to build muscle. That is fundamentally how you build muscle, is this, again, very cliche word of progressive overload. But, if you're a skinny guy now and you can only bench 40 kg, and 2 years from now, you can bench 90 kg for 10 reps, there's no doubt your chest is going to be bigger. There's no doubt that your arms are going to be bigger because they are a consequence of that progressive overload that has occurred over time. So, yeah.
Yeah, Mitch, thank you very much for coming on. Is there anything else you want to say? Maybe if you have any sponsors or anything you want to shout out?
No, all good, Chief. All good. If people don't follow me already, grab me on Instagram at, I always forget this, Mich_food and fitness. And I think it's the same on TikTok. So if people aren't following me already, certainly grab me over there. And thanks so much for a great conversation.
Yeah, definitely. I'll leave a link in the description anyway to both your social media platforms. But yes, thank you very much for coming on. Right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, mate.
See you later. Bye.